All right, we're going to call this meeting, County Commission meeting for Box Elder County to order today. We're going to start off with an invocation given by myself, the chair, and then we'll have a pledge of allegiance by Jenica Standard, our HR manager. Our Heavenly Father, we come before this time, grateful for the blessings that thou hast bestowed upon us here in Box Elder County. And we pray that thou will bless and watch over all those who reside here and travel through this county, that they'll be watched over and that we can continue to prosper and do the things that thou would have us do in our lives. We pray for those who are suffering or in need of special blessings this time, that thou can watch out for them and tell us the things that we can do to assist as well. And we pray that thou will continue to bless those who serve us in this country and the fire, police service, and in our military, and ask that you please bless and watch over them and let them know that we love and appreciate all that they do for us. We pray that thy Spirit will guide and direct us in thy service, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to have approval of the minutes from February 21st.
I reviewed the minutes. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for February 21st.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes from Commissioner Bingham, a second from Commissioner Summers. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Any future agenda items or administrative review items, anything we need to put on there? Either one of you?
I don't have anything right now.
Okay. Any former agenda items we need to discuss?
Nope.
Okay. And emergency management we're good with, so, and no ARPA, LATCF. So we're gonna go to our Box Elder County employee recognition. This individual came to our attention last month when our chief deputy posted this information out in social media. I know it came from a report from our deputy, but our deputy, last month, our Deputy Khalil Shaw for the Box Elder County Sheriff's Office was dispatched to check on an elderly woman who had not been heard from for a few days. When he arrived, he noticed a sign taped to her window that said "Help" in large letters. The resident, who was wheelchair-bound and suffering from multiple health issues, explained that her cell phone was broken and that she was low on vital medication and food. Deputy Shaw assisted in every way he could. He lent his phone to her so that she could call the pharmacy, refill her prescriptions. He then retrieved her mail and requested a grocery list for her. Deputy Shaw then went and picked up her prescriptions from the pharmacy, and he did her grocery shopping, stopping at Kent, Smith's, and Walmart to get the job done. After returning with her medication and groceries, Deputy Shaw again lent his phone to the woman so she could call her daughter. Before leaving, he also took out her garbage, shoveled her snow. All in all, Deputy Shaw spent a few hours helping this woman. And we are grateful for Deputy Shaw's compassionate service to the citizens of Box Elder County. And when I saw that, it got out in social media. Our news media picked up on it, but we just didn't. Timing was just such that this is the first chance we've had to officially, as commissioners, recognize Deputy Shaw. So we'd like to invite him up to be recognized as our county employee of the month. So.
I might have to stand out back to give you the bias.
Sorry. Put you here between us here.
That's pretty awesome.
Put you here. Perfect. Oh, hang on one second here. My phone was on there, so I could decide.
Thank you.
Great job.
Very impressive. And again, as I talked with our chief deputy and the sheriff, Deputy Shaw obviously got recognized for what he did here, but we have a lot of deputies doing the same thing every day out there and doing amazing work. And we just wanted to, like I said, point this one out, appreciate it, let people know how great they are at what they do. But I've also explained to Deputy Shaw that this is good for him. We're going to take him to dinner, but we're also going to ask him to take his crew, because he couldn't have done those 2 or 3 hours if it hadn't been for his fellow crew members letting him do that. So not only is he a great employee, but his fellow crew to help him get this done also deserves recognition. So we'll make sure that happens as well. So thank you, Deputy.
And you don't need to stick around.
We won't make you
Watch
stay if
the
you don't
rest
want
of it,
to.
Believe me.
So, all right, we're going to go on to our next item here. Public interest presentation concerns. We're going to start with PILT payments from Division of Wildlife Resources. Blair Stringham, come on up, Blair. If you'll take a seat here, make sure that mic's close to you, state your name, who you're with, and we'll go from there.
Great. So my name is Blair Stringham. I'm with the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources and the Northern Region Supervisor in our Ogden office. So this afternoon, I'm here to present the PILT payments for Box Elder County. So these are payments that we present that are payments in lieu of taxes for the properties we have here in the county. We have approximately about 58,000 acres that we manage here. A lot of those are waterfowl areas, so kind of the core of the properties we manage for waterfowl are here in Box Elder County. We also have several like the Brigham Face WMA and several others that we manage for big game winter range, and then several accesses that are along the Bear River for fishermen as well. So our payment today is $11,461 or $11,400.61. So in addition to that, I just wanted to let you know I'm relatively new to this position. So if you have any issues or questions, feel free to reach out to me or my staff, and we'll be happy to help you as well. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's why Charlene came, so she could just pick
So
up
we-
that
we
check.
can
She
hand
didn't-
that
She
check
didn't
to
trust
her.
us with it, so.
Perfect.
You just hand it to Charlene on your way out.
Yep, so our county auditor is back there, the Levi, yeah. So if you wanted to just hand it there, that would be great. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
And we do appreciate what you guys are doing here in our county and keeping, like I said, I know our county attorney is really grateful when the more you take care of that waterfowl area. We have some duck hunters here that do
exactly.
appreciate that greatly, so
Talk about
thank
getting
you.
these ducks in a
Yep.
row.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
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 Okay, next item on the agenda, we have permission to use the courthouse grounds for an event. Tara Roche.
Some people pronounce that Roche.
I pronounce it Roche, you got it right.
Did I pronounce it right?
Yeah, I think you know my parents, so
Well,
they probably
yeah.
heard it from them before.
That's what I was assuming that was same relationship, so that's how they told me how to
Maurice and
pronounce
Penny,
it. So
those belong to me.
you can change it, kids change their names on parents, so I get it.
So interestingly enough, Roche is incorrect.
Yeah, I know.
Without an accent or an R or a T, it's not pronounced that way in French.
Gotcha.
It's just a soft CH.
So I'm gonna have you pronounce your name in the mic for our
So, yeah.
records.
So my name is Tara Roche, and I am representing Box Elder Strong. We are renaming from Box Elder Run Strong, and I also represent Brigham Suicide Prevention. So I'm here to request permission to use the courthouse event grounds for our event, Box Elder Run Strong 5K and nonprofit event. So we invite all of the nonprofits that are present in Box Elder County to come and share their resources with our citizens, and we do a 5K for a fundraiser.
What day?
It is June 8th, so it's always the second Saturday of June, but June 8th this year, and we would need it from about 7 a.m. until 1.
And you're just using the steps on the grounds, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I make,
You need power hooked up that day as well, probably?
Power is already taken care of through the city, so
Okay,
we should be good.
okay,
So
I'll
I
make
just
a
need to be able
motion
to
to
run
give-
some kids around the courthouse building, basically.
okay.
They do a cute little hero run.
sorry, I'll make a motion that we approve the courthouse grounds for that day. For this prevention, is that what you're saying?
So
Suicide
it's
prevention?
Box
Box
Elder
Elder
Strong.
I
Box
saw
I'd
Elder
the-
actually
Strong
The
also
new
like
logo
to
is really
prevention.
cool, yeah.
invite
Yes.
the three of you to
That's awesome.
if you would. That is loud.
Yep,
There's the information about it to make
Do we
it a
have to
little
run? Do
easier.
we have to run or can we just watch?
No, you can just watch. I
Thank
don't
you.
run.
I was just gonna say.
Oh, there's only one reason I'd run, and that's if a
There
bear
you
is
go.
behind me.
That's awesome.
Okay.
I will
We-
second that.
We have a motion, we have a second to allow permission to use the courthouse grounds on June 8th by the Box Elder Strong organization. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Okay, next up will be Bear River Mental Health Audit Report. Rob, we'll have you come up and,
Got paper copies if anyone wants one.
okay, and we'll make sure we got one on file as well, so.
I'm good.
Put it there.
Thanks, Rob.
I'm Rob Johnson from Bear River Mental Health. State code requires that each year, the local mental health authority has a chance to have an interview with the officers from the mental health centers. And I'm here to fulfill that, and this is the certificates certifying that that's been done. So I'm going to take you through some things on the audit, go through a few of the numbers, and then if you have any questions, I'll answer them if I can, and if not, I'll get back to you with the answers. On page 5, which is the first page in the financial section, is the independent auditor's report. And in the second paragraph there, they say, in our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of Bear Mental Health Services, Inc. as of June 30th, 2023 and 2022, and the changes in its net assets and cash flows for the years then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. So what they're saying there is that this was a clean audit. Then if we go to the last 2 pages in the audit, this is their report on internal controls and other matters. And from the second to the last page, page 25, right there at the end of that last paragraph, it says that during our audit, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be material weaknesses. And then on to page 26, the last page, the last sentence in the second to the last paragraph, the results of our tests disclose no instances of noncompliance or other matters that are required to be reported under governmental auditing standards. And then on page number 8, this is our statement of financial position or the balance sheet for Bear Mental Health. Notice the second line from the bottom, total net assets went from 14.3 million up to 16.4 million. I also like to talk about when I'm presenting to the counties, midway down that page is the unexpended county funds. So we're on a fiscal year, July 1st through June 30th, and you're on a calendar year. So the budgets don't match up. The legislature can give us funds, and it's past time when you've set your budget. So if you ever give us more money than we need on the 20% match, the county matching the 20% state, we put it on our balance sheet as unexpended county funds. Then in a year when we need more, we can draw down from that funds to help us make that match till it's time for your budgets. And that amount, you can see that it dropped from little over 80,000 down to 63. Box Elder actually went from 49.8 down to 43. So the majority of that is Box Elder County unexpended funds. We do track it by county. Over on the next page is the statement of activities or our income statement. Third line down is the county, and I try and do this each year when I come and present this audit. If you think of our funding, it's an inverted pyramid, and the bottom of that is those county funds. Those county funds support our entire revenue picture because they're the money that bring down the state funds. That's that required 20% match from the state. Then we take those state and those county funds and use those to match our Medicaid. So we appreciate the support that we've had over the years from the Tri-County area, and we've always been able to make our match and never had to turn back state money. And that's what allows us to have the 18 plus million to provide mental health services in the 3-county area. And so thank you for your support through the years. You can see that our biggest revenue source is that Medicaid, and once again, that is matched by the state and county funds. So we had 18.5 million in revenue, down slightly from 2022, and our expenses went up from 15.2 to just under 16.5 million. So our net income was just over $2 million in 2023.
Was that some of the funds you had to expend in that year? Is that?
It's part of it was the unwinding of Medicaid.
Okay.
And we had fewer Medicaid eligibles, so you can see that the Medicaid revenue is the big thing that went down there.
Okay.
Yep. On the next page is the statement of functional expenses, and it just breaks out those 3 lines of expenditures in more detail. We are a service organization. You'd expect that our biggest line item expenditure would be personnel, and that's where we're at. 74.5% of our expenditures were in personnel. You can also see that management and our overhead was just under 10% for 2023. That's what I thought I'd present. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions?
Nope, thanks for a clean audit again, still. Appreciate everything you do for the Tri-County area.
Thanks.
It's been a rough couple of years for everybody, so thank you.
COVID
Okay.
has been very hard on people. It was good for us financially. For the mental health, it was good for the mental health system across the state financially, that and the Medicaid expansion.
Okay. So we just need to sign basically saying that we've received the audit, correct? Is
And
what
that
they're
someone came and
presented?
put it with you.
Yep.
Okay. Sign that there. And let's see, and I don't know, we haven't figured out exactly if there's something we have to vote on this yet at this point. We're still doing some research in the code to figure out.
Okay.
So there may be something down the road that we have to do as commissioners with the being the Mental Health and Drug Abuse Authority that we're working on right now. So we'll get that, but I think we can sign this for now and we'll go forward with that, so
Thank you.
anyway. Okay, thank you, appreciate that.
Now take them out to supper someplace good on the way home. There you go.
Oh,
I
that's
was
good.
hoping. Peach City, Idle Isle, Maddox. One of the above.
Suggestions, there you go. Okay, now we have our next item on the agenda here, and there's somebody in the crowd here that we all recognize, but it's not who you think it is. It's actually Mrs. Utah. So we'd like to invite Jamie Hadfield to come up and talk to us here. She's brought in some other folks with her, but we're grateful to have Mrs. Utah here in our presence here. As a local Box Elder County resident, we're grateful to have you here. So,
Well, you all know me pretty well. I don't think I know Commissioner Bingham as well, but I'm sure you heard of my husband before. Hopefully,
I know him well,
hopefully you're getting a good report.
but he never talked about you. I don't know what the problem is.
oh, now you're in trouble.
You know what? That's actually a good thing. Because that means he didn't air any dirty laundry.
The only problem is we were always in meetings. That's the problem, so.
The eternal political meeting. I understand exactly what you're talking about. Well, Commissioner Summers, Commissioner Perry, Commissioner Bingham, thank you for letting me be here today to address a very important topic that's near and dear to my heart. I'm going to first start off by telling you why it is so near and dear to my heart. Over 20 years ago, when I was traveling in Mexico, my home country, I was ran off the road and men with machine guns surrounded my vehicle. They had AK-47s, they had pistols, they had magazines of bullets, they were armed for war. They took me against my will. They drove me south into the Sonoran Mexican desert, literally away from everybody and anything. All I could see were mesquite bushes and cactus and dirt and hills. I remember in those times when they had me wondering if they were going to kill me. I was so worried about my parents because I thought they would never find my body. I was one of the very lucky ones in my home country of Mexico to survive one of these atrocities that are happening every single day at the hands of the drug cartels. I have found that this story, when I share what happened to me, is the number one way to get our kids' attention. You know what? Our kids are tuning out the usual drug message. Drugs harm you, drugs harm your body. They don't listen anymore. They're immune to it. It doesn't even faze them. That is proof when we know that there are 7,000 new drug users daily in our country from the Office of the National Drug Control Policy. 47% of these users are teens, ages 12 and 13, the ages of mine and Jeff's son. And most kids will try illegal drugs before they ever graduate from high school. Right now we have fentanyl, as you know, pouring across the border. The drug cartels in my home country are making more money right now with an open border. Not to talk about politics, but I'm going to. They're making more money right now on trafficking humans than trafficking drugs. These illegal immigrants, and I understand their plight, some of them are literal refugees, but many of them are just bad people. We need to make sure that our teens realize that when they buy illegal drugs, there was a chain of crime that took place before they got their drugs. This message, I find as I speak up and down Utah, gets their attention. I see the kids lined up after assemblies, school presentations, waiting to talk to me. And you know what they always tell me? I had no idea that my choices hurt people, that I am causing beheadings, that I am causing trafficking, I am causing organ harvesting. I have cousins who work in the desert as Border Patrol agents, and they are finding bodies without organs right now more than ever. We need your help. You might think, well, how am I supposed to help? I'm clear up here in Box Elder County. But you know what? These drugs, these trafficked humans don't just get across the border of El Paso, Texas and stay there. The drugs are getting to Box Elder County. Our kids are facing an epidemic. When we had COVID-19, which was just mentioned, they were thrust into a tunnel and drug rates went up. During the first 6 months of the pandemic, we had more people die from drug overdose than from COVID-19 combined. Every single day, 200 people are dying from an overdose. That's about as many people as we hear about on a jetliner go down. What happens when the jetliner goes down? It's all over the news, and it's very tragic. One of my biggest fears is to be caught in that situation and never live to tell about it. But every day we have that many people literally on a jetliner go down to drug overdose, and we don't even hear it on the news. I started sharing my story about how I was a victim over 20 years ago, and I was told I was crazy, that I was making this up, that can't possibly be true, and that only happens in the movies. Now, look what's happening. I knew over 20 years ago that we were slowly boiling the pot. We are being boiled big time. I need your help. You need to share this message. You need to do whatever you can to advocate for something to be done on the state level and local level. I am your servant. My reign as Mrs. Utah will end here in about 2.5 weeks. I'm going to cry thinking about that. But my work will not. I've been doing this work for over 20 years. So please, I need your help. If you can have any pull at the federal level, I know you do. If you have any pull at the state level, I know that you do. If you have any pull to get me into more schools, I know that you do. I am here to be the messenger of your day, to keep our kids from ever going down the drug path. When they hear my words, they will pause before purchasing, and they will consider the crimes before they ever consume. I know a drug addict is not going to pause before purchasing, okay? But I know that a 12-year-old, somebody my son's age, will definitely think twice. And that's where we need to get them and hit them hard with this message. And I need your help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for me? I'm happy to answer political questions, border questions, anything, please.
I don't think we got enough time.
I can talk your ear off, you know that. I can keep it brief too. Ask my husband. It happens once in a while.
But I think we're all in agreement that there is a tragic thing that's going on that does affect us, even though we're in Utah. And that's why you saw Utah National Guard headed to the border. Our governor has seen fit that he can see that the fentanyl and the human trafficking and everything that's going on now is affecting not only border counties, but Utah County. And that's why we have sent troops down to the border. So our applauds to Governor Cox for doing that and helping this situation, because we need to close the borders. And
That's good news.
we want people to come, but we want people to come legally.
Absolutely. I became a citizen
Exactly.
a little bit later in my teenage years. I did it legally. I followed the process. I get there's desperation. I luckily was born to probably more privilege than some, but we need to make sure we follow the laws. And if I can just hit on the fentanyl issue for just a second, I promise I'll wrap this up in 20 seconds. All it takes in fentanyl, and most of these fentanyl pills look like Smarties. The kids are being targeted to think that this is candy. Fentanyl is made in some rough makeshift factory where they just literally probably get a shovel and mix it. And they pour it into little molds that look like pills. They make it colorful, so kids are drawn to it. They add just a slight grain of salt size of fentanyl extra in one pill, because there's no exact measurement. They just throw it together in a crude way. That one shake of salt size fentanyl, too much in a pill that looks like an Oxycontin, which is usually fake, is enough to stop a heart. It takes the tip of a pencil, the size of fentanyl, to kill a teenager in seconds. That's why we are at a crisis. And again, I ask you for your help.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming today and presenting this, and we'll obviously share the word, so thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for all you do for our county.
Nice to meet you.
I know you're underappreciated.
Okay. That kind of brings us to a topic that kind of fits right in line with this. I think that you teed this up just right, because now we have our victims advocate, Cheryl Bergen, who's going to present to us about victim service reporting, which kind of probably goes very close in hand with this, I'm afraid.
Yes.
So we'll turn the time over to you, Cheryl. Just-
And I know you guys get to see me twice a year, and it's very similar message every time, but there are things that I have to report about. So bear with me. As you can see, I know Stan knows, but for the other two, our funding did change just a little bit. It was coming from VOCA, but it now comes from the Utah Office of Victims of Crime awarded by the state. So the funding changed just a little bit, and part of that funding requirement is you get to see me, right? So if you want to go to the next. You guys see me, but I don't think you see my team. So if you want to go ahead and click. I don't know why it's doing that, darn it. Okay. So you guys know me. I'm a certified advanced advocate, comprehensive victim intervention specialist. I still continue to do child forensic interviews at the CJC, former DCFS caseworker. So you know me, but I don't think you know my team. We have Tammy Talent. Go ahead and keep going. She's also a certified advocate. She's been with the county for 4 years. And she also volunteers at the YCC for the hospital sexual assault response team. And then we also have Michelle Clough, and I don't know why it's doing that. It doesn't, okay. Oh, gotcha. Okay, go ahead and keep clicking. And that's Tammy, and that's Michelle. Michelle is also a law enforcement officer, and she still holds that post-certification, and she's also working on her master's in forensic psychology. So we have a really good team of folks working with our victims. Go ahead to the next one. We have divided the responsibilities. We each have district court cases. I handle the administrative duties. Tammy is handling the juvenile court cases, and Michelle is handling the justice court cases. Go ahead. And as you know, I hope you know, there's different types of victim advocates. We are not the same type of advocates that you find at the shelters. We have different responsibilities, therefore our confidentiality is different than what the victim advocates have. And so just kind of want to remind you of that. We are working a lot better and closer with the advocates at New Hope, which we continue to do that. We continue to work on that relationship. Go ahead. So let's get into it. The number of victims served, and these are victims that are people crimes. They're not against businesses, that's a different number. But this is the number that we work the most with. So July through September, we had 407 victims, and October through December, 398. Not a huge drop. In fact, where we had a transition with Michelle, I'm pretty certain those numbers pretty much stayed the same, but that's what our data shows. So not a huge difference. Go ahead. We just talked about this, so go ahead on this one. So these are the numbers. I think instead of like just going over it, I'll let you look at that. A little bit of a decrease. It will be interesting to see what the numbers are from January through March. We tend to see the numbers go up a little bit on some of these crimes. So I think the big numbers that really stood out to me are the victims of domestic violence. And July through September, we had 84 victims. October through December, we had 89. Adult physical assault is still one of the higher numbers as well. So those are some of the big numbers. DUIs tend to be where somebody, of course, has a DUI, but they have a victim involved, whether they've been in some kind of an accident and has caused some harm either to property or to the person themselves. So, and then again, another big number for us is the protective orders. Protective order violations, stalking injunction violations, and our JRAs are the jail release agreement violations. That's like a temporary protective order that's in place after somebody has been released from jail and before they get to their initial hearing. Do you have any questions on those numbers before we move on? Yeah, okay. So how do we help victims navigate the criminal justice system? And again, this all comes down to the Bill of Rights that victims have. Everything that we do goes back to that. And so they have a right to be treated with fairness, respect, dignity, and to be free from harassment throughout the criminal justice process. We assist with filing pretrial sentencing and continuous protective orders, and we assisted 26 times. We refer victims to the Utah Crime Victim Legal Clinic if we feel the victim's rights are being threatened in the court system, and this allows them to have an attorney represent them in court. And you can go to the next one. That is our soft interview room where we meet with victims. It's more like a living room setting instead of one of like our conference room or our office. It's a little bit more friendly. In that 6 months period of time, we had 107 victim or witness meetings with victims and the prosecutors. Go ahead to the next one. Victims also have a right to timely notice of criminal justice events. There were 1,441 notifications. Victims need to know what rights they have. Information about their rights was given 1,266 times. Victims have a right to be informed and have clear explanations regarding legal proceedings. This happened 1,627 times. They have a right to be present and heard at important hearings. Most victims do not want to attend the hearings. They have their reasons, but they want to know what's happening. So the victim advocates attend all of the hearings, and we attended 1,664 hearings. Victims have a right to submit and have information considered at sentencings. Victim advocates assisted victims with their victim impact statements 92 times. Victims have a right to restitution and/or reparations. We assisted them 66 times. They have a right to a secure waiting area, and we've got that Upper South conference room in the courtroom to help them out there. So you can go to the next one. I just spouted off a whole lot of numbers, and for many, these numbers are just that, numbers. For the victim advocates at the county attorney's office, these numbers have names and faces. There are some victims we know better than others due to their needs and their level of involvement, but these are people of all ages and all socioeconomic backgrounds. They each have a story, a life that has been impacted in some way. Most are residents of Box Elder County. There are people included in these numbers that may be your friends, your family, and or your neighbors. They did not ask to be a victim, but were involved because someone has made them one. For many of them, the trauma they have endured can have long-lasting effects. For many, they do not have any experience with the criminal justice system, and we are keenly aware of how the court process can re-traumatize a victim and their family. Each time we educate, explain, notify, or assist a victim, we help reduce their anxiety, their fears, and their re-traumatization that can occur. We hope to increase their resiliency, their self-efficacy and self-empowerment, tools they will need to move from being a victim to a survivor. So, you can go to the next one. So works in progress. As part of requirements for the state funding we received, we are working on providing on-scene response to law enforcement throughout the county. New Hope Crisis Center will continue to provide on-scene response for domestic violence and sexual assault. We will provide on-scene response for other traumatic situations such as death notifications and suicides. There are a few more steps to go, but we are about there. We are also being asked to work with county's mass casualty response team. I will be getting with those officials soon to see how the victim advocates can assist them. We are also hoping, if you noticed in the back, Maggie, I keep talking about Maggie. It's been a year, but we are, I think, about a month or two away from having her actually certified as a therapy dog and working with the court system to get her more into the court. She helps us a lot in the office with victims. In fact, we've had a day with victims today, so she's probably tired. But I want to thank the prosecutors in our office publicly. We are lucky enough to work with prosecutors who are trauma-informed, who value victims' input and are constantly staying up to date on current legislation concerning victims and their rights. I also want to publicly thank the victim advocates on our team whose example of compassion and understanding inspire me daily. And I want to thank you for your continued support. You guys were very, very nice in moving our part-time victim advocate to a full-time, and that has really allowed us to really ensure that we're providing the service that we need to for our victims. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
Any questions that you have for her?
I'm good.
I do want to say thank you. And she didn't even point out the fact that we even throw extra duties, like she serves on our CJCC, our Criminal Justice Coordinating Council that we have to have in place, and she helps assist, works with the county attorney's office, and brings a victim's perspective when we're talking about criminal justice, the system, and saying, don't forget the victims, because that is very important for those who have been victims. And so we appreciate all you do. And please take back to your staff our appreciation. The dog thing is awesome. If you ever want to connect up with Utah State, they have one now, Sage. And Sage wasn't even fully trained when they used her the first time, and Sage had got an interview done in an hour that would have taken 12 or 13 hours. So amazing.
And I
tool.
think the JRI thing, people have actually noticed now what a cluster that's been for the last 5 or 6 years. And I can see this coming back to where we'll be able to actually do the things that help this. And I'm sure that, Steve, the county attorney's office are gonna be thankful for the things that we can do now with everything that's happening. And JRI can hopefully be better used. So thank you for everything.
Yeah, please extend to your staff our appreciation.
I will. They work hard, so thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, let's see. Let's go on to item number 9, Willard Cemetery District Resolution 2402.
What this resolution does is we have Willard Cemetery who wants to get some insurance, and they can go through USIP if they have a sponsor from an entity that's using USIP. So Steve, do you have anything else you want to add to that?
Nope, there's just a few requirements. I checked those out. They have to be sponsored. They have to be able to do what we do in contributing to USIP. And they meet all those requirements, so.
Okay.
I can tell you the board approved that wholeheartedly to be able to let them come through here with the county sponsors, so. Okay, I'd make a motion that we approve. I guess us being able to sponsor Willard.
Resolution
2402.
Resolution 2402.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion to support Willard Cemetery District Resolution 2402 from Commissioner Summers, a second from Commissioner Bingham. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay. Okay. Let's go on to item number 10A, the CDBG project extension. Requesting Grouse Creek CDBG extension. You want to talk about that, Stan, or?
Usually it's just the,
You know what it is, right?
yeah,
We just need to extend it by 6 months. I know Chrissy's received it. Basically, it's been going on. They're just asking, it's not completed at this point. We just need to have a slight extension to the project,
that's all it is.
and that's really what it was. Is there any, we just probably need to make a motion so we can sign the extension contract.
Make a motion, we approve the extension of the CBD project for Grouse Creek.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion to extend the CDBG project extension to June 30th. We have a motion from Commissioner Summers, second from Commissioner Binger. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes. Okay, Predator Control Contract 2410. That's just the annual contract,
It's
right?
just a pass-through.
Yep.
Just a
We don't have to do
pass-through.
anything, we just basically need to sign it.
So
We
I
just need
I
to-
have a question.
Yeah,
So I noticed when we went through the documents on the agenda, that there was a list for those that participate to contribute. Do they actually, those that are receiving that service, do they actually contribute?
Yeah.
Do they have to contribute?
They don't have to, but if they want the service, they do.
Oh, so if they don't contribute, then you don't give them the service?
Not necessarily, depends on what the funds are. So sometimes there's funds left over and they can continue to do the things without the funds.
Yeah, I just really think it's a good thing for them to contribute as well, you know?
Yep. And it's just a pass-through to the state. This is the Grouse Creek CBDG.
this is the extension.
There's your Predator. Yeah. That was just for our copy.
Okay,
And that's for the state contract pass-through.
okay. Oh, there's your pass-through right there. So, yeah, it's run through the state, basically allowing for that, so. Anyway, we'll take a motion on predator control contract.
I will make a motion to approve the predator control contract 24-10.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Bingham to approve the contract, predator control contract. Second from Commissioner Summers. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Six. Okay, there's that one. Make sure we get these signed. Okay, those are signed. Okay. Then the next one is item C, talking about county surplus property that we found, possibly putting it back out of sale or in use for benefit of the citizens. Commissioner Summers, did you want to talk about that?
We were talking about the benefit of the citizens, and I think if we just put it out on like our normal websites and things like that, to be able to send it out to everybody can have a chance to look at it and bid on it, so.
And then we're researching also for the citizens to be aware of, Brigham City just worked with, and they worked with the area. Habitat for Humanity just finished their second home in Brigham City that are in a little teeny area down on Fifth West, just prior to the hospital, that nobody wanted the property, nobody wanted to build on there. They were able to work it out and build 2 homes, Habitat for Humanity homes, where people with lower income were able to help do some work to get into those homes, and eventually ended up in a nice home that doesn't have a really big backyard, which is what some people for some reason want. But it's been a great find, and we may have lands that are available to the county that nobody wants to buy that perhaps we could use with Habitat for Humanity, similar to what we found here in Brigham. So
We've got a
we're gonna do some research on that project.
Commissioner Perry's done a great job in being able to bring this to the forefront. About 5 or 6 years ago, I think we tried to do this, Scott, where we took a bunch of properties and looked at it, and Steve, we were talking about the surplus properties that the county owns. The state's trying to do the same thing. The federal government's actually trying to do the same thing, to try to help, and I call them critical needs, like teachers and deputies and nurses and things like that can't afford to live and work in certain places. So anything we can do to help in that aspect, I think it's better to get it back on the tax rolls and help us get those things going, so.
So the question is, you're gonna identify these, you're gonna do the research and check them out individually? You're not gonna do a group thing?
Right now, we have Chad Montgomery pulling some numbers, some properties, and then we'll probably go out, look at them, and then we'll bring it back to the whole commission and say, here's some, maybe we'll maybe do a road trip or take some pictures and at least go back and look at them and determine whether do we need to get them put on the market again, try to get them sold, or is it something that maybe we choose to work with our Habitat? Something that would benefit the county as a whole and the citizens. And again, they're sitting in our possession as a county. We're not making any property taxes on them, and so they're just sitting there doing nothing. We need to make sure that they're out there being used appropriately. So,
And we've been working on this for a decade. I mean, we had, 3,500 properties out from Grass Creek to here?
yeah, well,
And it's been a decade to try to get some of these back on the tax rolls, so it's been a work in progress, to say the least.
yeah. So we're looking at that. We want to make people aware, and if they know of something, like I said, bring it to our attention. And then private landowners want to donate land to help with those processes, that's beneficial. I know we have some great folks working on ways to help people who need help in our community, so. All right, we're going to go to item D, appoint members to the Economic Opportunity Board. Sean Milne, you want to come up? And we've had this before. We need to get that taken care of.
I do. Thank you, Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to be before you this evening. For the record, my name is Sean Milne. I work for the Bear River Association of Governments, Director of Economic Development and Intergovernmental Affairs. With what Mr. Chairman said and a handout I've provided to each of you at the start of tonight's meeting, you know that I'm before you requesting some names and possibly a vote either on the whole, or I'm imploring at least some for to
Yeah, like I
have
said, we
some
need to get
progress
5 of them done today, and then we can come back and visit it in a little while and see if we can put some more on it. But we need to get that resolution done and get it to the state so we can get the $200,000 coming to us as soon as possible. So if you want to go over some of the names that we've talked about just for the 5.
Well, I don't know, you seem to be doing a great job,
Oh,
Commissioner, so
sorry,
I was
I
going to defer
misheard.
to you. That wasn't a knock, like you're
No.
literally already selling it for me. So what you see before you is just a single-page summary of the Economic Opportunity Advisory Board that is required for the rural county grant. And this is again through a state appropriation from the legislature to the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, or GOEO, and they oversee the rural county grant. And this board is required in order to get those funds each year. The purpose of the board is to hold me accountable in the day-to-day sort of function of my job. It's really required that they only meet a couple of times a year if you follow the strict, couple of reporting and grant for the next year's cycle. But staff has made it clear that they'd like them to be used much more frequently. So just as a way of comparison within the region, I can tell you that there's going to be quarterly meetings with Rich County's newly constituted board. They're kind of heavy right at the beginning of the year because when the grant money comes in and how they've decided to deploy their funding. Cache County is much more regular every other month. It's as specific as the even-numbered months. And anyway, it can be as frequent or as infrequent as you'd like, but the state would like us to use them at least every quarter for me to give reports on things I'm working on behalf of the county for retention, recruitment, development of businesses. And you can see the minimum 5 required seats is someone from someone representing the county. It doesn't have to be an elected official. As you can see, that's not a requirement, but oftentimes is. Commissioners Perry and Summers have both expressed in the previous meeting I came before you their interest in potentially being that person. You can have more than one, by the way. A representative of a municipality within the county. At the suggestion of one of you, I'd reached out to Mayor DJ Bott, and I can tell you that that seems like a good fit because he's not only a city representative, but also a small business owner himself, and he has agreed that he would be willing to serve if you'd have him. Mark Alexander of Bridgerland Technical College and Troy Lamb of the Department of Workforce are 2 individuals I mentioned to you before, but I'm going to ask that you not consider Troy Lamb. He can be on these kind of committees, but his bosses advised him that he'd be better off not voting in any kind of board capacity. But that's what this can be. So if you use the board as is expected, they'd hold me accountable, but they'd also vote amongst themselves on recommendations on how to apply for the funds each successive year, and then also direct me on how to file my reports to make sure that, again, I'm being held accountable. But Mark Alexander, as you know, you had me, or you gave me permission rather, to apply for funding, and we got approved for it, to use some of the annual rural county grant money to expand Bridgerland Technical College's accessibility through their Entrepreneur and Innovation Center in Tremont. So this would be a good fit because that's what Mark Alexander runs for Bridgerland. And then Monica of the Chamber of Commerce is a natural fit. And we've used a similar approach both in Rich and Cache for the chamber to represent private sector. And then a member of the public who lives in the county, one of you had suggested and another concurred that a Mr. Drew Anderson. I've left him a voicemail, but I've not heard from him, so
I hope he's listening. We can throw him under the bus while he's.
Okay. And then we discussed the potential of more members, but not to exceed 9. So I have the following just to put into the audio record. Suggestion of someone from the tourism industry. I proposed last time Joan Hammer. I've spoken to her. She would love that opportunity. Someone from manufacturing, someone from aerospace and defense, and someone representing the agricultural communities of our county.
And I think that's important since we're going to focus on those other things that we're talking about,
The Rural Communities Opportunity Grant, yeah.
Right. Okay.
All right, gentlemen, any questions for me? If you do take a vote tonight or in the future, just remember we're reconstituting this board, so we need to stagger and give a pretty 50-50 mix to those that will serve for 4 years the first time and those that will serve 2 years the first time. And then we'll keep track of that moving forward.
So you're saying we're gonna do 5 tonight and work on 4 others to get to that 9?
Well, you don't
later?
have to, but you can.
Well, because we
Yeah.
don't have names right now for aerospace, manufacturing, agriculture.
Yeah.
I would think those are important to add personally. I think we have some names we could add now with the idea that we need to reach out in the next month and come up with more names to continue to add to the list to make sure that these other organizations are represented. They're
Yeah.
a big chunk of our county.
Well, one of the big concern I have is, you know, this county's hugely into agriculture and we only have one voice out of,
Actually, you can put 2 to 4, however many you want. We just need to get the 5 done so we can
Yeah.
continue to do it, so. If we made a motion to agree with just these, like, the ones you've talked about with Monica and Joan and the ones that have agreed, and then say the aerospace industry, agriculture, and that, you know, that would consist of the rest of the board, then we can start with that resolution and go from there.
We did a similar approach when we reconstituted Rich County's board, so yes, Commissioner, we could do that.
And then we can put that back on the next agenda or whatever agenda to talk about any more names you want, Boyd, on that.
yeah.
And we
I
can bring before
think we need a
you,
little time to do some research
Yeah.
on that, you know?
Yep. I just know that it's time sensitive to get this thing in, so, I mean, I'd make
and
a
Attorney
motion.
Hadfield, just to give him credit where credit's due, he's willing and ready with an update to the 2020 resolution that officially formed this the first time around.
Speaking of that, also, so Steve, if we do this, if
finish it
we, if
without
we
the
did this and gave you 5 names and said we want to also include up to 4 other names, we could add those to the resolution. You could put the initial 5 in with the knowledge that we're gonna add up to 4 more, and then we would add those to a resolution and vote on them in a future meeting, if that would
And
work.
and you could do just a verbal resolution tonight,
Okay.
and then we'd follow it up with a formal written one.
Okay,
Or you can wait till you have the written one. If you want to get it done quickly, I'd suggest you do a verbal one tonight, then we can prepare something to memorialize that, and then add to it later. I don't know what your time crunch is, but
Thank you, Counselor.
It would be nice to get these other folks and get it up and running, I think.
yeah, and I'd make a motion, we do a verbal resolution to be able to constitute these tonight to where we can start working on that grant from the state.
Do we need to name the individuals?
yes, so that I can prepare.
Okay,
I need the
yep.
names to put in the resolution.
That way I'm not confused either.
Yeah, thanks. And I'm ready to take notes right now on terms as well as the individuals.
Well, you just stagger every other one, so we don't need to worry about the terms. So 1 through 5, do the first one at 2, the next one at 4, the next
Okay.
one at 2, the next one at.
Okay, with that, both you and Commissioner Lee, Commissioner Summers have expressed interest in
I
being the
flipped him
county.
for it, and so he's good.
You gonna have me do this then? Is that what
Yeah.
we're gonna say? Okay. So it'd be Commissioner Perry would be the county representative.
Copy.
We would have Mayor Bott
Yep.
would be the city and small, well, maybe city, small business. Mark Alexander from Bridgerland. Monica Holdaway from the Chamber of Commerce. And Joan Hammer representing tourism. That would be our initial 5 to start with. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And then we would add possibly others. We've made some names, recommendations. We need to find some other folks to fit in these categories.
Right.
And I have a
And they
standing,
can cover too, I mean, you look at, there's people, the manufacturing, there's actually folks that are doing things in manufacturing that are agriculture that
Yeah.
may fit very well there, and we may end up,
just
and that
need
may
to
be
do a
something to
little
look at.
research.
We just
Yeah.
need to think about those people to fit those in. So that, the motion would be those 5, is that correct?
So do we need to go, like Stan said, that means Lee 4, DJ 2, Mark Alexander 4, Monica 2, Joan 4? Is that
Yeah.
what you figured?
you can, you had said start with the first one or
Whatever.
2.
I don't
I
care.
don't have a preference. I'm not suggesting either way. Just let me know so that I can properly document it for
Or
Mark and
inverse,
Steve.
doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Whichever, how
Put
we
it down
want.
in the resolution.
Should we do you want to do 4, 2, 4, 2, 4? Let's do it
Yes.
that way for now.
Okay.
Is that right?
Okay.
Commissioner, do you have 4 more years that are guaranteed?
No, but then again, I've got
Nobody's guaranteed
more than the mayor
tomorrow.
does at this point, so.
Copy, okay.
The mayor has a shorter time frame than we do, so it's all fine.
Okay, just to make sure, for those following along on the audio recording, if they want to know who's on first, we have Commissioner Lee representing the county at 4 years of a term. A representative of the municipality within the county, Mayor DJ Bott, 2 years term. A workforce development representative, Mark Alexander of Bridgerland Technical College, the Entrepreneur and Innovation Center, a term of 4. A private sector representative, Monica Holdaway, the Chamber of Commerce, term of 2 years. And as an additional, beyond the 5, a tourism industry professional or someone involved in that industry, Joan Hammer, for a term of 4.
That actually is 5.
That is
That is the
That is
fifth one.
5, exactly. That's who we have right now.
That's who we got the 5.
It's the 5 members, but
Right.
unless we're counting her as a member of the public, which I've already reached out to Mr. Anderson to be,
Right.
she's actually one of our kind of additional
Would be
seats.
an additional, yes, it would be additional member to our group. So
And then I'll work with,
Bring it up.
5 to start, and we'll have you as a non-voting member that will help run the board, correct?
the staff,
Anderson
yeah.
isn't in yet.
No. We've just reached out to him.
Okay,
We'll try to apply him on the next time.
so is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Your motion is to do
Again.
a verbal, what do we call that? Resolution, a verbal resolution with these 5, with those terms of limits at this point, with the idea that we'll come back with up to 4 other names. It's these other categories we've discussed.
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner, so we have the motion from Commissioner Summers, a second from Commissioner Bingham. Any discussion?
Nope.
Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thanks,
All right.
Sean.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to community development. Scott, you want to come up?
Scott Lyons, Community Development Department.
You want to start with, we've got rezone request first, so.
Yeah, so this first rezone request, and the applicant submitted a request to our department. The request was for a property in the South Willard area located at approximately 8205 South, 1500 West. So this property is, to give you a location, if you're familiar with the Anderson Livestock Auction on 7800 South, this would be south of that, and on 1500 West is the road that is west of the livestock auction. So it's a gravel road that runs north-south. So that's where this is. That whole area is currently zoned A20, so agriculture 20 acres. The request was to change the zoning, 8 acres of the zoning to be changed to general commercial, and 13 acres to be changed to RR10, so rural residential 10 acre. So the property total is 21 acres, and that was their request, is those two separate zones for that property. As I stated, that property, to the north, south, west is all A20. To the east, you have the interstate. As far as this goes, it went to the Planning Commission. Originally in January, public hearing was held. The Planning Commission hesitated to make a decision at the January meeting. The applicant requested, so he's coming from a company that has its headquarters, I believe in Missouri.
Mississippi.
Mississippi.
That's it. In Mississippi, and there, the city or county that he's located in issued him some sort of a special permit outside of the bounds of a normal permit. So he asked for something similar to that here, where the zoning doesn't really accommodate commercial use in that area because of the lack of infrastructure. The Planning Commission in their January meeting took that into consideration and said they wanted to research it further. What that would have entailed was what's called zoning by agreement or contract zoning. It basically says we'll allow for the zone to change, but only for this specific use under these specific circumstances for this specific time, or basically
Is
writes
that a
in.
CUP? I mean, why is that not just a CUP?
Well, the difference is zoning is a legislative action, conditional use
Which has
is
been
an
taken away from
administrative
us, so-
action. So it kind of turns the legislative action into, a hybrid of that.
Steve wants to say something. Oh, okay. I thought for sure.
And they are used in certain scenarios, but, so basically the Planning Commission directed us as staff to go back and look into the benefit or, you know, if that made any sense to do a zoning by agreement. We did that. We provided them with some additional information. The item went back to them in their February meeting. They took that additional information and made a decision at that meeting. Ultimately, their decision was recommending that the application be denied. So that's their recommendation to you. As far as, I'll run through the approval standards. There's 4 approval standards with regard to a zone change. So the first one is whether the proposed amendment is consistent with goals, objectives, and policies of the county's general plan. The county's general plan for the South Willard area states that existing commercial uses along Highway 89 should be retained, and new commercial growth should mostly occur near the interchange, where mixed uses could be introduced. Since orchards are not found west of I-15, 20-acre agricultural zoning should be retained to provide for crops and grazing. So it encourages the continuation of that 20-acre ag west of I-15. Whether the proposed amendment is harmonious with overall character of existing development in the vicinity of the subject property. As stated, aside from the interstate to the east, the remainder of the property, north, south, and west of this is zoned A20. The extent to which the proposed amendment may adversely affect adjacent property. During the public hearing, there was only one person that spoke, and they were actually more opposed to a potential residential growth issue than commercial.
That's what I was just gonna ask you. So out of all the people that are surrounding the surrounding area, only one person came out against it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the final approval standard of the 4 is the adequacy of facilities and services intended to serve the subject property. That goes into roadways, police and fire protection, schools, storm drainage, and then utilities like water, wastewater, refuse collection. So where this is located is a gravel road, and our road supervisor met with the applicant on site to take a look at 1500 West, the gravel road. And his recommendation was that he recommended that the project not be approved because the road in its current state would not, it
Hold the
really
traffic.
isn't sufficient for commercial traffic. He thought that it should be a asphalt road if it were to accommodate commercial traffic. So with that said, the findings that the Planning Commission made, kind of the basis for their decision, was that while the land use code does allow for the request to rezone properties, the general plan in the South Willard area calls for agriculture to remain on the west side of the freeway. Commercial growth for the South Willard area is directed to be closer to the I-15 and Highway 89 interchange. That zoning by agreement should be used when their flexibility is the only legal way to say yes to a very desirable development opportunity that should enhance and not undermine the existing zoning and general plan, and that a zoning agreement wouldn't provide any benefit to the county in this application where the same benefits could be had in existing commercial zones. So with that said, they forwarded a recommendation of denial.
Okay.
Okay.
I
Before
was,
before we take any action, we do have an individual that did come up and wants to speak in specific to this. And I did authorize Fred Ward to come up and just say something. So Fred, if you want to come up and take the mic, introduce yourself, we'll let you talk about this before we take any kind of an action on this decision.
My name's Fred Ward, and I reside in Willard City. That's the area I grew up on. We own that farm.
Okay.
And it's both on the east and the west side of the freeway. It's about 50-50 as far as how much property's on each side. So the gentleman come with a good offer to purchase that land. And as far as I know, he has already applied for a well permit, and he's already been approved to drill a well. But for his business, it's railroad, and he does kind of like safety and inspections and things for the railroad throughout the country. And he's just looking to build a a big shop and stuff there to kind of store and, as he needs to, haul his railroad stuff out when he needs to go and do his business, which I think would be a benefit because the guy is contracts with the railroad. And who doesn't have a railroad? And the other thing I wanted to bring to attention, I think the road, although I have to give some respect to the engineer that talked about the road, that's county road. As far as I know, it's a county road. It's been a county road forever. And the owner to the south of that is the LDS Church. That was part of our property too. And the church bought it when my brother went to Idaho. And to the south, to the north of that is the property that the lady came and spoke on this issue. Really didn't have an issue with it.
It's just that she didn't want to have houses.
Exactly. And there's not gonna be homes.
Right.
And west of that, across the road, is the LDS Church again. And then everything else, most of it's John Larkin.
Yeah.
He feeds and fattens cattle and trucks them out of there on that county road day after day, and a truckload of fat cattle weigh as much as anything else.
Sure.
And farm equipment and big fertilizer trucks have come in there and parked every year to take care of John's needs, and there's heavy traffic on that road continuously. And I can't see where an asphalt highway, adding asphalt, burdening that poor guy to attach to the asphalt to go clear over there and across his little section of property. Asphalt's not gonna give you any structural value. The structural value of that road lays under the asphalt. So, and then there's other areas there. In the past, I know Davis, to the north of there, who is up, he resides up by the auction, the Anderson auction. He had property there, and he's came in the past and got his property rezoned for 2-acre lots.
For housing.
And I know for a fact.
Residential, right?
And there's guys there with their construction, excavation businesses coming out of there. So it's strictly not all agriculture. But to my knowledge, we're trying to get this property sold, and I don't see the big reason to deny this guy an opportunity to bring his business into this county and support the county.
Well, and that's why I asked Scott about CUPs.
And the property that he's not gonna be using, he doesn't want us, he wants to set aside for other use, he's gonna rent that. He's gonna rent that out, and that guy that's been renting it from us for years growing seed corn, he's gonna continue to do that. And that guy rents the rest of the church's property and does the exact same thing, year after year.
Okay.
So
Thanks,
I
Fred.
don't see a reason to deny this guy his wishes.
Thank you for your input.
Thanks for your time.
Appreciate your
Insight.
input. So, thank you, Fred. All right. Any other questions we have for Scott before we do anything?
Yeah, I mean, last winter, when we had all the moisture and the issue, I had people calling me from Riverside that were being flooded. And their big issue was that this was a county road that didn't have drainage on it, and it was flooding their homes. Who then becomes responsible without a drainage infrastructure put in? Who becomes responsible for the wastewater? Who puts the water line down there? Who does all of that?
Well, if it's a well, it should be on the property.
Yeah.
So I've been in these meetings where they haven't been approving wells. You know, for over a year, they've said, hey, we don't approve wells in the Bear River Basin unless you can mitigate and say, I'm pumping out X amount of gallons, I'm gonna put X amount of gallons back in to go to the Great Salt Lake. So until I actually saw something in front of me that said, here's the well document and it's approved, I would be hesitant to approve that.
I haven't seen anything as far as the well, and I don't know if the well is approved for residential use or if it's approved for commercial or
Commercial use.
industrial use.
So he didn't show that to the
No,
planning commission?
No. Additionally, when the planning commission and subsequently the county commission reviews something like this, the request is for the general commercial zone, and so what's being looked at isn't just this use, it's any use that's allowed within the general commercial zone. Because this individual, he could purchase the property and go out of business in 2 years, and then he would need to sell the property, and he would be marketing it as a property zoned general commercial. And that would allow any other general commercial use to come in that, you know, may have a lower impact on the infrastructure, may have a much higher impact on the infrastructure.
If we choose not to go through with, and we say we're not gonna follow this rezone request, he still would have the option, if he wanted to, he could go to Willard City and ask to be annexed into Willard City. Is that, he could buy it and do that, is that correct?
So he did go to Willard City and request that. Our policy requires that he does that before he comes to the
Okay.
county. And so he went and he did that, and they denied his annexation request.
Okay, good to know.
So,
For whatever reason, we don't know what their reasons were, but they
yeah.
denied it, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, that's, but we've got enough, sorry, Fred, we have to leave it at that, so thank you. All right, back to the commissioners, anything further?
I'd actually like to try to see if you can't do something with the CUP. We've done this with different things in different places with, you know, conditional use permits to be able to see if he can't make something work. Big property right guy. I think if the people around him are not saying a big thing, and I understand the general plan and the future part of this, but I would still like to see if there's any way we can, you know, do some sort of a CUP with him, kind of like we did with the stuff down in South Willard when we're doing residential and such, to see if it makes it worth his while to come do this.
So again, to clarify, conditional use permit is an administrative process.
Right.
The zoning has to be in place for him to be eligible for a conditional use permit.
So we would have to change the zoning.
So you would either have to change the
Spot
zoning,
zoning.
or you would have to go back to what the planning commission originally discussed as far as
spot
zoning
zoning.
by agreement.
That's what I was just gonna say. I mean, I'd like to be able to say that, anyway, that's what I would like to be able to do, is to say zoning by agreement and let them see if they can do the things necessary to make everybody feel better about it, whether it's the roads or the water or anything like that. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I was at the meeting, I heard the discussion, and they talked about all of the issues in depth, and I kind of feel like that we ought to honor the recommendation of the planning commission.
I'll be willing to entertain a motion from either of the two.
I will make a motion that we deny the application because of the recommendation of the planning commission.
Okay, I have a motion. I'll second the motion. I think that we need to follow the guidance of the planning committee. We put them there, and we need to listen. They've studied it more than we have. I think we need to follow what they've given us as guidance, so I'd second it. Having that in the second, we'll put it out. And any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so we have one opposed, 2 in favor. It does pass. So, okay, next one, B, ordinance 593, Scott.
All right, ordinance 594, this is a text amendment to the county's sign code. So the chapter 5-3 is the chapter that regulates signs within Box Elder County. So this was brought to our attention. The Planning Commission in February of 2022 reviewed the sign code and made some changes to it based on some updated legislation from the state. And I guess there's pressure both at the state level and at the federal level regarding electronic signs, both on-premise and off-premise. So the changes that the Planning Commission made in 2022, and we went back and reviewed their minutes to find out kind of what they were saying, and they were correct in that their intent was to remove electronic signs from the land use code in unincorporated county only. Now there were so essentially that change took place in all sections of the land use code except for the billboard section. Somehow that didn't get removed out. So this change comes basically modifying that section of the land use code as well, that would remove electronic billboards from the code. So again, being a text amendment, this follows the same approval standards as the zone change does. whether the proposed amendment is consistent with goals, objectives, and policies of the general plan. And the county's general plan doesn't specifically address signage, but does address land uses that may rely upon signage. For those land uses, it states Box Elder County understands that future development is most likely to occur in cities or in areas where adequate services are available. The county does not support extending services through or into areas that have not been identified for future development. With respect to responsible land use planning and efficient resource use, it's the county's preference that growth and development take place within existing communities or in unincorporated areas within which adequate services are or may be made available. This text amendment would apply to all areas of an incorporated county. The extent to which the proposed amendment may adversely affect adjacent property. There was no finding that the proposed amendment would affect adjacent property. And the public hearing process, no one spoke to this in the public hearing. And the proposed amendment should not have an effect on the adequacy of services and facilities. With that said, the Planning Commission did forward a recommendation of approval on this with the goal of, I guess, adjusting or enforcing their original intent from February of 2022. So that is where that recommendation stands.
I'd make a motion, we approve ordinance 594.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion to approve ordinance 594. Commissioner Summers, second from Commissioner Bingham. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it passes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll bring up, I guess, it's not Sheriff Potter, our Chief Deputy Kate Palmer, not Kevin Potter, will be presenting on U.S. Forest Agreement 2409. And we're gonna excuse Commissioner Summers, he has to take care of a medical situation for his son, so.
All right, Kate Palmer, Chief Deputy of the Sheriff's Office. What I have here is the contract for the Forest Service grant agreement. Every year we're under contract for them to pay us $6,000 for our patrol work we do in Cache National Forest and Sawtooth National Forest. They pushed this through with a couple little changes. I thought they had already changed this, but they took Del Ward off the contract and replaced him with me. But that had been done previous years, so they must have found some old paperwork and thought they hadn't done it. And the other thing is because the delay in the federal government approving the budget that we were experiencing, typically it says $6,000. They were comfortable pushing $3,000 ahead of the budget approval. And then upon the budget approval, we should see that jump back up to $6,000. So I just need the signature from the commission chair to send this back to the Forest Service.
So, but they will come, we're not gonna give them, we'll give them $3,000 for the service until they.
Yeah, if they don't come back, we won't give them $6,000
Okay.
worth of service. We'll give them $3,000.
Good to know. All right, we have a motion on approving the U.S. Forest Service Agreement 2409.
I'll make a motion that we approve Forest Service Agreement 24-09.
I'll second it. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right.
You can sign my copy. And this is the ordinance.
That it, right there?
Yeah, and then I'll get the other signatures and go do a final copy.
Sounds great.
Okay, there's that one. That's the ordinance.
Uh-huh.
Okay, there's that. Okay. Next on the agenda will be early HSA payment agreements. Jenica Standard, come on up.
So Jenica Stander, HR Director. I've had an employee reach out to me who has a medical need to have the second half of their HSA payment from the county made early. If you want to discuss who that individual is, you'll need to go into closed session, but I don't see any issues with paying it early.
We've done this before for those who are in need for it, so.
Correct.
And if they happen to left employment, they'd have to pay it back, et cetera, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's my understanding.
I will make a motion that we approve early HSA payment agreement.
Okay, I'll second that. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Thank you. I'm going to
Take care.
hand you the PA list too.
Okay, we'll take care of that too. We'll take care of that while we're at it here, so. We'll take care of Warner Register here. There's that. Okay, that leads us to our public comment period here. So again, public comment, just a reminder, those wishing to make public comment need to sign the comment roll, which we have. One person's done that. Speakers will have 1 3-minute opportunity to speak regardless of the number of items they wish to address. And the speakers shall address their comments to the county commission only. It's a time to be heard. There will not be any back and forth dialogue, and the speakers may file copies of their remarks and supporting information with the county clerk, and the clerk can make that information available to the county commission if necessary. So at that point, the only one we have signed up today is Deanna Hardy, if you want to come up.
Deanna Hardy Brigham. It's concerning that the minutes continue to not reflect what I say correctly during this public comment period. The Family Support Center should be defunded and returned to the private sector. The people should not be forced to be charitable. God cannot judge us if we are forced to be charitable. And BRAG and the newly formed Rural Economic Board are socialist programs, and they should be defunded. They are contrary to our republic. The Box Elder Committee of Liberty is disappointed that this commission chooses to continue to spend unconstitutional funds from the federal government, thereby continuing to enslave the people and destroy our country from within. Nowhere in the supreme law of the land, the U.S. Constitution, does it say for the federal government to hand out funds to states, cities, and counties for socialist and fascist programs or organizations. The unconstitutional money should be returned with a letter of nullification. The county fair. This is another socialist program and should be returned to the private sector. The people should not be forced to pay for other people's entertainment. Those who attend the fair should pay for it, not those who do not attend. And also, when you were talking about the Economic Board, here it is in our Utah Constitution, Article 12, Section 20, free market system as a state policy. It says right here, it is prohibited for any person to monopolize, attempt to monopolize, or combine or conspire with any other person or persons to monopolize any part of trade or commerce. This is what is happening with the Rural Economic Board. Government's not supposed to be involved in business. People are to be allowed to have a free market system in their state, and the government should not be involved. This is not on my report, but I'll try and do that next time. But I wanted to address that this time. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other public comment, and we've taken care of the warrant register. No closed session needed. I'll take one final motion.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.